Hey everyone, my name is Bryon Howard. I'm a Calgary realtor who has sold an average of a house a week since moving to this great city in 2003, and this is Calgary Living. I'm interviewing Calgary's top performers as it relates to living and lifestyle in our great city. Some of the podcasts will be real estate decision specific, but most will be about life in Calgary and why we choose to live here, or at least why you should visit. Thanks for tuning in. Hey friends, this was a fun conversation with Ryan Draper. Ryan's the owner of Cycling 101 Inc. in Canmore. He spent 2 decades as an elite ultra-endurance mountain bike racer, and he turned this passion for bikes and bike racing into a career as a cycling coach, instructor, guide, bike fitter, consultant, and health coach. If you're a cyclist or like to bike, Ryan can take you to the next level, whether that be, you've been biking from home all your life, but maybe rolling your bike into your car and, choosing an adventure by bicycle, whether that's just jumping on the Legacy Trail between Canmore and Banff, or exploring further adventures afield and learning more about cycling. It can all start that love of cycling from just a proper fitting bike, which Ryan can assist you with as well. So if you've been biking or want to bike more, or we'll look at different aspects of how cycling can take you on various adventures, check out this interview. I think you'll enjoy it.
My name is Ryan Draper, and I'm 42 years of age. I reside full-time in Canmore, Alberta. I am the proud owner of Cycling 101 Inc., which is a cycling-related company. I coach, I guide, I instruct you bike fitting, consultations, all kinds of different things to do with, the bike industry, all ages. So I have some clients that are 6 or 7 years old, and some that are, in their 70s and 80s. So no one's too young or too old to be part of Cycling 101.
You've been cycling all your life. You've come in from a professional mountain bike background. Is that right? You were a pro for many years?
I spent a better part of two decades racing internationally in the ultra endurance world. So lots of 24-hour solo races and stage races all over the world, like Africa and Brazil, all over in Europe. That was kind of how it all started. And I worked in the bike industry for over 17 years while I was racing as well. And it kind of evolved into a career, my passion, and made it into my career.
That's awesome. And so how long was the first kind of, the guiding business and the instructing business, the bike fitting business, that's Cycling 101. How long have you existed as at that name? Has it just been a couple of years, or has it been 10? I don't know.
Yeah, it's been 20 since 2014 when I incorporated. And so I slowly grew the business with more of the coaching, and then got into a lot more instruction, and then guiding kind of came kind of as a natural part of it. And then I guess it would have been in 2017 where I branched out and got out of the bicycle retail business as a general manager, and I took on my business.
And what motivated you to open Cycling 101? I mean, I kind of can guess it was your natural abilities, your love of cycling, and pushing the limits. At the same time, you're sometimes helping and instructing 70-year-olds and 70-year-olds. I mean, tell us a little bit about the motivation behind Cycling 101. What motivated you open it?
Well, Cycling 101 for me was an extension, obviously of my background. But I think it also stems from a level of frustration I was having with the current state of the bike industry. Very low margins in bicycle retail, and being someone who was fairly sought for advice, people would come to me and kind of extract whatever they could out of me for coaching advice or nutrition or race advice. I wasn't really seeing the return I was after, but more so than that, I wasn't capable of giving everyone 100% of me. I was in a retail environment where people could come and get a piece of me, and that piece of me that they got was not always the best version of myself. And so I realized there was a big gap that could be filled between the retailers and the end experience of all cyclists. So I branched out and branded my business as kind of filling that gap and filling that need. And now I kind of laugh about it. I'm like, before everyone could get a piece of me, now through an appointment, they can get the best version of me. And it's very, very rewarding, mainly because I'm just so driven to give my best at all times. And I think that, my clients and those who use our services definitely feel that.
Well, that's awesome. So my next question was, and I think you just answered, what do customers love most about the service you provide? It sounds like, just giving 100% of whatever they're looking for in terms of advice and using your many, many, many years as a cyclist to help them along in their path or their journey and what cycling may become for them.
A lot of people come to me for different reasons, but I think the thing that they like the most is that they're not in a retail situation. I'm not ever trying to sell them anything. I'm really trying to give them an experience, and I'm wanting to have them take their investment, whether it's financial investment towards the gear that they have or the time investment for commitment, and give them little shortcuts and advice on how they can best maximize that. And I like to think about taking people who are interested in cycling and making them fall in love with it and having them become lifelong cyclists. It's just this an overall passion, and I've met some of my best friends through cycling. One of my best men in my wedding is still one of my best friends. We met. We were race partners for years. I have 101 stories of how the bicycle has brought me close to so many amazing people.
I'm not surprised at all to hear that. Tell me, is there anything exciting coming up in Ryan's life and or as it relates to Cycling 101 with the business?
Yeah, there's lots of stuff that's kind of come in a roundabout way. I was on track for a record 2020 with the number of contracts and bookings and things that were on tap coming into March. But as we all know, they came to a screeching halt, and pretty much 100% of those plans had to be tossed. And ever since March 18th, I have been reinventing what we're doing. And the boom in cycling right now, because of the situation, has led to a lot of requests and a lot of futures. And I'm very excited to be able to extend our services. Our team is very excited to extend our services through the summer and fall months to those who are new to cycling and those who are just looking to pick up the cycling game over the summer while they have the time and maybe not traveling to those farther off destinations, but staying localized. And so that's really fun, really exciting. I feel like I'm connecting more with my community than ever before.
So, Ryan, I'm curious, I think that, first off, there's all kinds of cyclists, and pretty much I think everybody is maybe they don't call themselves a cyclist, but they ride bikes, like everyone in the whole world. How does somebody who has a bicycle and always owned a bicycle, but for example, never ever put it in their car to drive somewhere else to see a different area or bike in a different place, how does that evolve? And could you be a link in someone, maybe they haven't thought about that? And when does someone think about that? And why don't more people think about that? Or am I just off base? Any thoughts on that?
No, I think you're bang on. I think that, the tagline that one of the prominent companies in the industry, Salsa Bike, has is adventure by bike. And we're really seeing an evolution in North America. Mainly cycling for a long time have just been, it's used for recreation or fun. In other parts of the world, it's a primary form of transportation, whether it's the Netherlands or other hotspots in Europe. Here, we're finding that people sense the adventure and the reach that they can achieve on a bicycle. Now that there are bicycles like bike packing style bikes and bags and accessories that you can actually go on longer, prolonged, trips maybe it's a weekend in the mountains, maybe it's an overnight somewhere. Really seeing people gravitate towards that, and it's filling kind of the hiking bucket, but it's also something that they can do maybe even right from their doorstep if they live in the foothills or Bragg Creek or Cochrane and that kind of thing. Canmore is an amazing place to start from. I mean, you can head into Banff National Park, you can head into K Country, you can head back towards the foothills. But this whole area is a real great gateway for that adventure by bike kind of scenario. And on that same drag, the Legacy Trail that is in Canmore that goes to Banff and back, we have seen a tremendous number of people from Calgary and surrounding area and Edmonton come specifically to ride that 50 kilometers to Banff, that'd be return, but 25 kilometers to Banff and back as a sense of accomplishment and to be in the mountains and to experience cycling just slightly differently. And I think that, more things like the Legacy Trail need to be built to get people because it's off the Trans-Canada and it's safe. And that's a big concern for
Interesting. And then, Ryan, maybe just moving a little bit more from sort of cycling and, cycling 101 in your own business. Tell me a little bit about about you. Where were you born? Where were you brought up? How long have you lived in Alberta, in Canmore right now? All your life in Canmore, or?
No, actually, I'm a transplant from Ontario. My story started in 1994. I came out for the Jeep Eagle Cross Country Ski Nationals as a young whippersnapper. I flew in on the red eye, and I was a late addition to the Ontario ski team who was competing here. And I was driven through the night and didn't actually get to see anything on the way in from the Calgary International Airport. I woke up in actually the Rocky Mountain Ski Lodge downtown Canmore and opened my windows, and I immediately fell in love with the mountain. It took one walk outside, and there was just this embrace I felt from the mountain that I said to myself that day, and I called home to my mom on the corded dial-up phone. I think it was a rotary dial, and said, I'm going to live here. And my mom was like, okay. And being so young, she didn't really take me seriously. But a few years later, this is where I ended up on an internship, a mountaineering internship with the Yamnuska Mountaineering School.
Wow.
Then, so that was 99. I ended up here and pursued a career in professional mountain bike racing starting in 2000. I've lived here ever since. I met my beautiful wife here. We purchased our first home in, what would that have been? That would have been 2007, I believe.
2007, right in the midst of the booming Alberta market. Is that when you purchased your first home? Just like I purchased the home I currently live in 2007?
Yeah. It was hard to digest that we were paying the amount we were for our first townhouse, but it was the smartest thing that we had ever done. It really allowed us to branch out and create a home, as opposed to just a house. It wasn't just four walls for us. It was actually our home, and it helped us really establish in the community. We felt like we were part of something bigger. And then I guess that would have been in what year would our next purchase came in 2015. So we're celebrating 5 years in our lovely home here.
Nice.
Up in the Peaks of Grassy, a very family oriented neighborhood with fine views, Lawrence Grassy and Hulling Peak, and looking over the mountain to the other side of the valley as well. Yeah, that was our big move was 5 years ago. And we're very excited to be in a single home now.
Nice. And so, just out of curiosity, real estate related, were you able to keep the townhouse as an investment property, or did that sell to help you buy this one?
No, unfortunately.
Well, unfortunately, maybe. Maybe, unfortunately, we don't know.
We don't know. No, we sold the house in Stepping Stone. It would have been nice to do it as a rental property, but my wife and I are we come from fairly humble backgrounds, and we did all of this on our own. We saved up our down payments, and we've never really had outside from family. We kind of hold that close to our heart. We're pretty proud people that way.
That's nice to hear, actually. I find you're humble people in Canmore. Like, is everybody rich, or are there humble working people that own real estate?
There are a lot of very humble people in Canmore.
Certainly, I think.
Yeah, the population split is, I think the number of like retirees or is creeping up almost to 40% of our population. I know the last number was probably around 35-36%, but I think it's creeping up still. And then there are a lot of weekend properties or investment properties that are here. But I think the bulk is Canmore residents, hardworking, blue collar people who really have kind of the same ideal that we do, where I'd rather play, or I'd rather live where I play than commute to where I play, because I can play in the morning and then I can play in the afternoon when I take a break from my home, and then I can play again in the evening. Whereas we see a lot of people who live maybe in the city can only really manage to jet out to maybe Bragg Creek on a Wednesday and then make it to the mountains on the weekend. So for us, it was a sacrifice, and we learned how to adapt and make our lifestyle work here. It's for the fact that we absolutely enjoy the recreation and the views and all of the things that are so beautiful here.
Is Cycling 101, is it running from your home? Or like, do you ever have clients coming and meeting you and starting their adventure there? Or where? Tell me a little bit about how you meet clients.
So I typically meet clients outside of the home. I do have a home. Our home is small, so not a whole lot of room for us here. Then we do have a few dogs that are small, so they usually do the meet and greet, and it can go on for a little while and be fairly loud. So I typically meet all clients outside of the home. A lot of it are on trail. A consultation, we might meet at a local coffee shop, or maybe it's a lunch, or what have you. I personally don't like sitting down for meetings. I like moving, so I do a lot of ride meetings, or someone doesn't go bike, and we'll walk along the river, just so that find the juices flow a little bit better up in fresh air, being able to typically where it happened.
That's cool. You probably don't realize I used to run an adventure tourism business in Prince Edward Island called Outside Expeditions, which is still a going concern. But we at that time when I started in 1994, we felt like we had to have a van and a meeting place. I think things evolved a little bit. Like, do you have a big deckled van? Is that necessary?
No, it's actually interesting you mentioned that. I was with a client an hour ago. We just finished up an on-trail mountain bike bit, and we were talking about that, and especially in times like we're going through now, the brick and mortar, businesses and all the overhead that goes along with businesses is hard when times kind of go south. I think working from home and being able to really separate the two entities of home life and work life are really important to keep your sanity, but keep costs down. And for us, we had two small businesses, and we really like the idea that we can only be reached by appointment only, because it just allows us to build in space between appointments. And like I said, just my wife and I are the same way. We like to just give 100% to everyone, and we're so intrinsically motivated that we just get so much from seeing satisfaction of a product that we're delivering, and be able to reflect on that. There's nothing harder for us as a couple to reflect on something that we maybe did halfway.
Cool. Ryan, my experience with you was in terms of you giving 100%. and motivation. And I want to ask you about it. It was recent. You and I both participated in February, I think it was, in Tony Smith's Grizzly event, Fat Bike Marathon Relay. And you passed me like on your, I want to say 16th lap. Okay, fourth or fifth. And like I was standing still after I had done, I don't know, maybe two or three. But I found that, like, I think, did you come second that day? What was your position? I think you just said about winning, and this maybe a younger kid got you in the last minutes or kilometers of the race. Is that true? Or do we even want to talk about that?
You know what? I've been racing for so long, and this is my whole new thing with my cycling 101 is like I like to be healthy all the time, so I can get off the couch and I can participate in stuff like what Tony puts on, and still be competitive. I don't adhere to a structured training plan at all. I spend all my time, structuring stuff for athletes. But that experience was actually pretty amazing. Yeah, I led the race from the start, and then on the very last lap, halfway through, a younger rider who caught me and passed me. She and I had been kind of going back and forth. We raced against each other in the he's younger, so he wasn't in the Masters category. He was in the Open category. So I was still sitting on, a first place podium in the Masters category. And being 42, I've always, just because of my background, I've always put myself in the Open category. I'd never really put myself as an gatekeeper yet. Yeah. So it's just one of those things that was like kind of waiting for the day where it had to happen. But then in the last 200 meters of the race, I was caught and out sprinted by the second place Masters rider who ended up winning and by literally a couple of bike lengths.
No way.
Yeah. After 6 hours of us huddling through that stuff and giving it our all, it came down to a 15-second sprint, and that, it just goes to show, my heart was off to those guys. I was like, man, you guys see that I went maybe a little hard too early, but I'm like, I left everything out there. I had no regrets because I gave 100%, and I had so much fun. It was such a beautiful day, and the course was so good. Everything was awesome about it.
So I have a little bit of endurance sort of background as well, but not really on the mountain bike, I mean. And I found that it was my first, actually, I did one other race, the Golden 2-4, the 8-hour solo event in June last year, and I didn't like it. It's too much, too long for a mountain bike. And then I did that one, was it 6 hours? That was the time?
Yeah, that was 6 hours, yeah.
And to me, it was this is just too much. Hats off to you. I want to talk about the motivation and the intrinsic motivation. Do you see yourself doing that kind of endurance event for another 20 years, or is it any less fun? It sounds like you're totally excited by it still.
Yeah, I'm totally excited. I mean, I work with a lot of kids who are in their teens, and I told my wife the other day, I was like, I was out with the race kids, and they were texting me again and seeing if the old guy still has it. And I said, I put the hurt on a bit. So I said, maybe I'll get a few more years out of, myself, performing at a higher end. But I really do get excited, by my clients and my athletes. And I've actually done a lot of partner races. So 24-hour races where I'm a duo with clients. I've done some 8-hour duo races with clients. I have a lot of fun, and I'm getting driven by my clients and my athletes. And I don't know that I'll ever go back to a regimented training program per se, just because of the lifestyle I live. Kind of keeps me always prepared to kind of put in some big effort as long as I get enough recovery. So I keep myself, coming off the couch for the next 20 years and still playing and seeing what the younger generation, has as far as endurance and skill set.
Cool. You mentioned, and I'd like to go back a little bit, you're going to race endurance rides all over the world. It sounds like, Morocco and Guatemala, maybe, Argentina. What's happening with that whole endurance multi hour event? Is it a growing sport, in terms of epic events around the world, or what's that? Just maybe give us a couple of lines on your experience over the last 20 years on that sector of, I guess it's kind of fringe sector a little bit, but I've always dreamt of doing those kind of things. Never have.
Yeah, so I think it really started the big ultra endurance, some 24-hour solo racing and team racing. It was all about human endurance and pushing. And when I started those in 99, 2000, the only literature and stuff that was out there was really about triathlon, which was several hours, quicker, I guess you'd say, in duration. And then we saw a bit of an evolution there, and stage racing became really big. So Trans Rockies and Trans Alps and Trans Andes and Brazil Ride, La Ruta, all kinds of different races all over the world, including the Cape Epic, which is in South Africa. And so those races really attracted kind of that 24-hour crowd and those cross-country guys. Then we started to see a bunch of the races fold and not have as much stuff. And what we really saw kind of after that was more the adventure by bike style. We saw bike packing come up. And, it doesn't cost any money. You can decide whether you're going a long distance, 2 days or 2 weeks or 2 months. And then we also had a new category called enduro, where you only get timed on your descent versus so anyone who is maybe a really skilled, strong descender, could go to those races as opposed to slogging up the hills as well. So a few different genres were born and came of the whole thing. And I think the status right now is that enduro is still a very portion. We're seeing cross-country racing on the UCI booming again. Intermittently we see the Fondo thing being, something to look at. And then obviously more recently the endurance world is Everesting and Zwifting. Kind of a really, really dynamic over that last 20 years for sure.
Curious, this probably doesn't matter, or probably our audience doesn't care, but I'm selfish. Do you Zwift? I don't think you do. Do you Zwift?
So I used to teach indoor spin classes for 15 years, and I hated the trainer after that. So through the COVID thing,
You've been Zwifting?
I got a 1-month membership, and I put in some time. And, it was only on the days that were either rainy or too cold or whatever. It's kind of like to fill in the gap. And I did actually suspend my membership, and not sure what the history of or the future of that looked like. I'm really an outdoor guy. I crave nature, outdoor space, fat biking. I fat bike once or twice a day, all winter long. So I don't see it being a part of my immediate future through the summer and the winter. Only the temperatures will tell.
How come? Tell me. I have fat biked, but I love cross country skiing, and I don't see myself really being a fat biker. That's where you came from, cross country skiing. Are you still cross country skiing?
Yeah, actually, I do a little bit of cross country skiing, a little bit of backcountry. I haven't been to the downhill skiing in a while, but hop biking for me has really evolved because I look at the ROI, if you will, on whatever I'm doing, and so I can start fat biking from my driveway, and get on some pretty amazing trails, and then come back. And then days that I don't want to go fat biking because the conditions aren't ideal, I usually do some fat bike grooming. I volunteer at the Nordic Center here in Canmore to groom the trails for the fat bike race. And then I also do what we call man grooming, which is I tow a 90-pound steel grate with weights in it behind me on snowshoes on some of the trails that what not permitted to take motorized groomers on. So a big chunk of the community that knows I do that. Every now and then I get social media props or sometimes even a little beer delivery for that grooming out some of the
That's awesome. Maybe just looking at the time here, Ryan, and being aware of your time. Tell us a little bit about the boom and bust economy of Alberta, how it affects Calgarians, how it affects your community, Canmore. How do you cope with the boom bust economy? And do you save for a rainy day? How does it affect your mindset? And does it affect your business?
Yeah, that's
A lot of questions, maybe.
Yeah, that's a deep question, but yeah, I like it. I like it. Through the time we're in now, I mean, it really forced myself and my wife to come together as a household, and then two independent businesses to figure out, what are we doing right, and maybe what are we not doing right, or what are we doing wrong, or what can we learn from this experience. And I think I mentioned it earlier, just, having two home-based businesses means we have to keep the lights on in one location for two businesses in a household. So for us, I think that selling our intellectual property and our passion and ourselves out of our home is a safe way to go about it. And we do our very best. We're not thriftiest of savers, but we do we do watch our finances, and I think after this, we've really tightened things up. We go on knowing that we can't always be living in a consumption lifestyle. I think we need to maybe just bring it back a bit. And I think that's kind of the common thing that most people from this situation that we're all in.
Good. Maybe I'm going to ask a couple more funny questions. You've met a lot of people, in your career, your life, and your interest in endurance and sport, and living in a beautiful place like Alberta and Canmore. All those people you met, you focused on the cycling path that you've gone down. What profession, other than the one that you have now that you own, would you have liked to attempt? Funny question.
Oh, I've got the answer for that.
Oh, good.
So my well, I have two scenarios, but the first scenario, the short and easy one there, my dream job would actually be to work at 3M. I've always looked at things differently. I like to think outside the box. I don't believe that no is the right answer. I believe that we can all create solutions, workarounds, and just that can-do attitude. I've run into so many problems in the cycling industry with individual products. I have said to myself, I wish that this thing, had one of these over here, because this just wasn't engineered or thought through, because it hits this application, but it doesn't get this other one. I don't like to think about things in a niche perspective. I really like to think about, if you're going to buy a bike, what are all the different cool things you could do with it? And if you changed out a wheel set that has a different tire width and wheel size, could that bike do, 50% more or cross over a line or a category? So yeah, 3M would have been, my dream job, I guess you would. And then my other scenario is with my wife. We love animals, and I've always dreamt of a huge acreage with a dog rescue agency built into it, and terrain to build some mountain bike trails, fat bike trails, snowshoe trails, a little cross country ski loop. Just to harness all the passion that I have, and then have some yurts on the ground so that people could come and visit and share and learn, from us while visiting some cool little stray dog.
Love the visions. Love the vision. Maybe just I guess it's called tailgating, or the words are not my thing. What advice would you give your younger self?
If I knew now, or if I knew then what I know now, what would I do differently? Kind of a question.
Not any different, maybe in the way you want it. What advice would you give your 22-year-old self or something? Anything come to mind? Creatively.
I definitely think that for me, the growth mindset is probably what I would have liked to have known 20 years ago. Just because now I think like the last decade, I've kind of gotten into that like self-improvement growth mindset. And if I would have had it even earlier, I might have acquired some more skills and some more diversity and realized sooner that I know nothing. And just could have worked on some of those weak links. But really that's probably about it. I mean, I live my life day to day, and I like to say that I have no regret because if I changed the course of my life, I wouldn't be sitting here today with you. So everything kind of worked out.
It's perfect. It's just the way it should be, of course. Ryan, how can people reach out?
So people can find me on Instagram. That'll be Cycling 101 on Instagram, as well as on Facebook. A little business page there. They can also reach out to me if they wanted to whatever it might be. That's ryan.cycling101gmail.com. Yeah, pretty much how they would get home.
Great. Any ask of our audience? Other than, get on your bicycle? Like, that would, do you have any ask in the audience before we say adieu?
Be kind to each other.
Nice. I love it. Ryan, it has been an absolute pleasure, not just seeing you whiz by me on the bicycle here today. Slowed you down a little bit, and it's really fun to have the conversation. Thanks so much for being a guest on the show.
Thank you.
Well, that was a great conversation with Ryan Draper. So if you're a cyclist or you're just interested in becoming more of a cyclist, Ryan has a long, long history of that instructing, guiding, consultant, and health coach. He's got tons of certification from heart rate variability certified kind of coach. He's a primal endurance mastery certified coach, bike fitter certifications, as well as, of course, first aid, training peaks. He's a Banff interpretive guide. So you want to explore further different options. Possibly you should set yourself a goal and maybe think about doing even the fat bike marathon out of Canmore next February. Or there's all sorts of mountain bike type events in our future. Or maybe it's just a long ride. There's all kinds of great sort of bike packing trips here in Alberta. Just as easy as getting up there above the Canmore Nordic Center, heading up towards the to the top of that hill around the Spray Lakes. There's a beautiful trail that not many know about. And you can either get there on your own or through the guidance and guiding of Ryan. There's a super trail behind that Rundle Mountain that goes all the way to Banff. So, if you thought more about cycling, reach out to Ryan. You won't regret you did. Nobody regrets time on a bicycle. So, I hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I enjoyed my time with Ryan. Now, who do you know who needs to be on the show? Please reach out with suggestions or questions. And of course, if you have anything, questions, need resources regarding Calgary real estate, please reach out to me as well. Until next time, hop on your bike and go, go, go.
And I will, and